All right. Nobody's here. Let's see. I'll get the speaker going.
USA, and there's so many people who complain about the IRS taking advantage of them. I may or may not be one of those people that has said that word. I'm sick of being taken advantage of by the IRS. I think we all do, right? So, with over 14.
It appears that Donald Trump is taking a big lead over Kamala Harris in the key swing state of Georgia.
Battery 20%. Connected to Phil Zeitfeld.
In the key swing state of Georgia. Yeah, that's right. We have a brand new poll out of Georgia, not just some random pollster, not a far-right pollster. No, this is one of the most accurate pollsters in the state of Georgia. For crying out loud, they were spot on in 2020. They were pretty good back in 2016. And even in 2022, they were off by only like a point. So when the Atlanta Journal-Constitution drops a poll like they just did, everyone pays attention because they're very good at their job. They know what they're doing. They're very accurate in Georgia. And when they found a Trump +3, it took everyone by surprise because, for starters, everyone was expecting this to be a
Hey, everybody. It's going to be small audience, I think.
45% here, or vice versa. No one really thought that they were going to find Trump +3 because it destroys every narrative surrounding this election because if Harris was really up by 15 points everywhere, well, shouldn't the most accurate pollster from Georgia have a Harris lead? Or at the bare minimum a 50-50 race? But they found the complete opposite. They found Trump up by 3 points, which is a healthy lead. That is right outside the margin of error, which is 3 points in this poll. So that means even if it's a 3-point miss, it's still, at best for Harris, a 50-50 race. That's why it's a big deal that Trump's up by 3. It's not, he's up by 1. That's nothing. That's
all right. All right. We got his point. Ham's doing some sort of therapy for his toes that he broke. So I don't know if he'll call in. I bet he will. He's like the Energizer Bunny. He never quits. And once he gets going, it's full on for an hour. Dan, I should have looked. I frankly, did they cut rates? I didn't expect them to, but let me look. I didn't even look to see what the decision was. It is a Fed rate cut. No, don't they come out at 2 o'clock? Everyone's expecting a Fed rate cut. I don't know how you do it if you want to keep credibility in the bond market. They had a crappy bond auction a day or two ago, and inflation is still hot. I don't know. Personally, I think if they do cut rates, it's to help Kamala Harris, which, as we all know, she's better than Trump, and she's really talented person and a real breakthrough for women. Her values, which have never changed, really speak well of how women should get ahead in this world. Yeah, I thought so too, Dave. I thought it was at 2 o'clock. But this guy, his question sounded like it's already done. So I just misunderstood his question. I guess everyone is expecting a Fed cut. And I've already given my point of view. I don't see how they can do it. But Yahoo says Fed to start cutting rates at last. Policymakers will also outline the path for future rate cuts on Wednesday. 30-year mortgage rate falls to lowest level since 2022. I don't know. You see, the gambit is, and it's worked now for your entire lives. You have it in your head that the Fed controls long-term interest rates. All the Fed really controls is the discount window. That's all they really control. And although vague, I have a memory of when the Fed was not believed. They lost all credibility for a while. And it's not, all's the wrong word, because they always have a meaningful impact on short-term interest rates. But anyway, my concern would be that if the bond market decides, or foreign investors decide, hey, this isn't good, I don't see how it helps. But we are going to war, so we're going to make sure that the dollar is the preeminent reserve currency for a while longer. We're going to make sure that Kamala and her minions are in power, so the banks can continue to control our lives through the media, through social, the internet. And thank God we're going to get rid of this anti-Semite, misogynist, racist, white supremacist bully who is Donald Trump. I mean, it's obvious he's a threat to democracy. Thank God democracy will survive. We will do anything to preserve democracy, including censorship, jailing people without their rights to counsel or presumption of innocence. We'll get rid of free speech. We will control the media. We'll start wars without congressional authorization. And we will we will nominate and select a person who never earned a single delegate ever for the presidential nomination until the rigged Nancy Pelosi strong-armed coup d'etat against Joe Biden. And she finally got some, I guess you call those votes at the Democratic convention. But she never got anything on the road. But anyway, that's how we'll save democracy. Let's install somebody. Let's control the opposition, control the message, go to war with countries that think differently than we do, jail people who think differently. Let's drive our left-wing, feminist, Marxist, basically absurd agenda on the United States. We'll invite people in to the country. Disease? Who needs to check for smallpox? Who needs to check for polio? Who needs to check? Let them in. You're racist if you say you're worried that the country can't handle 20 million people coming in without being checked for disease. You're racist if you say that. Let's bring them in. That's how we'll preserve democracy. And just to cap it off, let's have an angry Jewish woman, Ukrainian Jewish woman, Victoria Nuland. And the reason that's important, she is fighting a war of her forebears, her grandparents and great-grandparents. Let's have her lead the charge against Russia. Let's launch missiles, long-range missiles at Moscow. We'll really preserve democracy then. And Ukraine is full of Nazis. I mean, it's weird. Weird. He was a stalker. Weird. You ever see Rachel Zegler? Single-handedly woke, go broke, destroys Disney. I mean, she's put in the role of Snow White, which is just a story. And she says that the Prince Charming is stalking Snow White. Weird. I don't think that's the way this, but anyway, it wasn't my favorite story growing up. I moved on to Wind in the Willows and various chapters on physics and math. I'm just kidding. I probably went to Superman and Batman comics. I don't know. Weird. All right, let's see where we are. Cuts could have unintended effect on the housing market. Well, we'll skip that. I don't see any more news on this. Let's see if I can find some insightful commentary on the rate cuts. Billionaire reveals what will happen if Harris wins the election. We will see a crash. Well, I hate to break it to you guys. We're going to have I think, a massive rally in the indexes before next year. It doesn't matter who's president. The world is headed for a hard crash. Puff Daddy got arrested. AI surveillance system coming. It will help keep citizens on their best behavior, Oracle co-founder says. Yippee! See, that's China. And I think personally, if you think China controls Harris walls, you might be right. If you think China controlled the Clintons and the press and the Democratic Party and the Bidens, you might be right. You might be. If you think China controlled Mitch McConnell, you're definitely right. Nope, there's no real insight on this rate cut coming. Ford files a patent to spy on drivers. That sounds like the country we want to live in. Clinton encourages violence. Okay, that's an opinion. All right, let me see if there's one other place I can look for some opinion on a rate cut. Explosive device discovered near Trump rally in Uniondale, New York. Well, that's another way to save democracy. Get just off your opponent. I mean, we're really, it's important to save democracy. The ends justify the means to save democracy. Wait a minute, the ends justify the means? The ends justify the means. Who said that? Oh, communists, Marxists. Maybe it's just that we're all human and we're all subject to the same stupidity, whether we call ourselves Americans or Soviets or communists. Vivek Ramaswamy lands his own Fox Noise show. Oh, good. Ghislaine Maxwell is writing an autobiography. That is going to be worth reading. I'm reading the book Ask Not by Maureen Callahan, and it's about the Kennedy women. It's over there. I don't have it here in front of me. Man, she is really got an agenda, Maureen Callahan. But I'm reading it. I will learn what this obviously very strongly liberated woman, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But Maureen Callahan is not writing an unbiased book. But I'm in chapter 2. I guess John Kennedy, younger, was really reckless. But what intrigues me is she's portraying the women that John dated as victims, but they hung on. Why do women all date the same one man? There was a Caroline and a Christine, and they knew that he was dating these other girls, yet they stayed because they wanted to marry him and be in the Kennedy mystique. Whose fault is that? Is that John's? Yeah, I guess. But on the other hand, why do women all want to date the same guy? That's their choice. They sleep with the same guy even further because they're liberated. I don't know. But I'm going to finish the book. I'll learn the bad side of the Kennedys. Men. It's only the men. The women aren't bad, just the men. I'll read it. You can already tell I'm biased in my reading. Let's see if there's any update on this with the Daily Hate. There's a bomb found outside a Trump rally. Okay, here, live. The Fed could do something today it has not done in 16 years. Here's what it means for your 401k, loans, credit card, and mortgage. This is written by Tilly Armstrong, an assistant consumer editor. Tilly is usually short for Matilda, I think. But anyway, but it could be something else, you tell me. But anyway, let's see what she has to say. I'm sure she's unbiased herself. The Federal Reserve is due to lower interest rates. Well, her language would be better to say the Federal Reserve is expected to lower interest rates Wednesday for the first time since 2020. In unusual circumstances, there is still uncertainty as to how big of a cut the central bank will make. The release of the Fed's decision will come at 2 p.m. extraterrestrial time, followed by a press conference from Chairman Jerome Powell. Investors are anxiously waiting to see whether the Fed cuts by a cautious 0.25%. Why is that cautious? Or a more bold 0.5%. Look, if they do a 0.5% cut, you guys better get ready for the market going down first. If they do a 0.5% cut, it means they know something that Tilly doesn't know and you and I don't know. I personally think they should not make a cut at all. But she's wrong here. It's not so much what they do today, it's what their future guidance is. But whatever, Tilly knows. The Fed has not lowered borrowing costs by that much at one time, since the midst of the financial crisis in late 2008. Well, there you go. Listen to what you're writing, Tilly. The Fed has not lowered borrowing costs by 50 basis points since the financial crisis. So it would be a big deal. I personally think they should leave it no cut, but if they do make a cut, I hope it's only a quarter. We'll find out. An interest rate cut of any size will have an impact on Americans' finances, from credit cards to savings accounts to 401ks and mortgages. Don't count on it. Don't count on it. Do you see credit cards really go down with the Fed rate? I never do. Do you see mortgages really tied to it? Mortgages have already come down. Which, to go with my argument, the bond market might be saying rates need to come down. It could be that case. My argument being that the bond market sets rates, not the Fed, long-term rates. Anyway, let's leave it there. Let's look at some of these laggard, disappointing, boring stocks that do nothing. And finger is up, 0.0099. Are you out of your mind? At 234.99. And DJT is down to $15. It would seem that they're convinced that whoever inherits Donald Trump's position at DJT will sell. I missed Richard's call last night. I just couldn't do it. I had a deadline. I was scrambling. I was typing. I was getting editing done. I was scanning. I had to get, and I missed his call. But my understanding is either today or very, very soon, you can expect progress at GTII. CRTD is 50 cents. What does that mean on a 500 to 1 split? Let's see. 50 cents divided by 500 equals 0.001. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Well played. All right, let's see what you guys are asking. Let's go from the furthest as my, I had a girlfriend, really I did. The furthest comment. If you think as I do the Fed should not, then I know. You know, people in the know use BDO. People who don't use deodorant have BDO. Senator Warren wants a 75 basis point cut. Well, you know, Dan, I just picked up a book at the airport, and I want to read some of it to you guys. I haven't read any of it. It just looks like a lot of fun, and there's a little blurb on BOAC, British Overseas Airline Corp. No, that's not who I mean. It's on AOC. And let me see if I can find it. Zooming. Let's keep going while looking because I can't find it. Why not use the index? Oh, okay, good idea. I'll use the index. Is that what that's for? Is that what that's for? Anacostia. Of course, she's not here. Oh, Anacostia Cortez. So it'd be under C. CO, Cortez. LMNOPs. Her name is not appearing in the index. Anacostia, Anastasia Cortez. Let me see if I know where else I can find the page. We can go with modern monetary theory. Yeah, 221. It was when he was discussing. There it is. There it is. Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. All right, so this book is called Money, The True Story of a Made-Up Thing. It's written by Jacob Goldstein. And I really wanted to read chapter 3 to you. But then I saw this little blurb on chapter 3 is entitled How Goldsmiths Accidentally Reinvented Banks. That's, I told you how gold was held in Italy, say, and they would give out script. I assume that's what they're going to talk about. But this is I think it's a fascinating book. And none of you know what money is. Not a single one of you. You know why? Because nobody does. Nobody knows what money is. There's these complicated definitions. Bottom line, money is whatever you say it is and whatever the other guy will take or the other girl will take from you. It's all a confidence game. All right, so this isn't very long. It says, a world where the government prints money and gives it to anybody who wants a job. In early 2019, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a newly elected congressperson, let's not be sexist, started proposing massive new government spending projects, including a promise of a government job for any citizen who wanted one. People asked her, how would the government pay for it? Maybe we'll tax the rich, she said. Or maybe, she suggested, we can just spend the money and not worry about how to pay for it. She wasn't being glib. I don't think she's an idiot at all. I think there's only one politician on the planet, well, maybe the guy in Brazil or Argentina, but I think there's only one politician on the planet who can command and get the cameras to turn on her like Trump can get them to do for him. She's really good at messaging and getting the power of the media on her. There's nobody better than she is other than Trump. So I don't think she's an idiot. But anyway, she wasn't being glib. She was drawing on a weird new way of thinking about money that had quietly been gathering steam for decades and was suddenly everywhere. It's called modern monetary theory. And while its intellectual roots go back a century or so, we can start the story in the early 1990s when a hedge fund manager named Warren Mosler flew Officer Mosler from Mosley, I guess it was. Mosley. It was Mosley. So it was mostly Mosler, not Mosley. All right, Warren Mosler flew to Rome to meet with Italian finance minister. Mosler had recently noticed that he could borrow money in lira from Italian banks and turn around and lend it to the Italian government for a higher interest rate. It was a free guaranteed profit so long as the Italian government did not default on its debts. So he met with the finance minister. Mosler had recently come to believe that most people fundamentally misunderstood how money worked. They were still stuck in a gold standard mentality decades after the gold standard had disappeared. He pointed out that unlike the gold standard world, a country who prints its own fiat currency and borrows in that currency never needs to default. It can always print more money to pay its debts. I'm sure that's not inflationary. Printing more money can sometimes lead to inflation, Mosler knew, but it didn't always lead to inflation. He thought the essential thing for understanding an economy was not how much money the government was printing, but what was going on in the real world. Did everybody who wanted a job have a job? Were all the factories and offices operating at full capacity? Only if those things were true and the government kept putting more money into the economy and buying more goods and services would it start driving prices up and create inflation. But what if the company weren't operating at full capacity? What if there were a lot of people who wanted a job but couldn't find one, and idle offices and factories? In that case, as the government put more money into the economy and started buying stuff, it would drive businesses to hire more workers. Prices wouldn't start rising, Mosler argued, until the economy got to full employment. Mosler wasn't trying to convince Italy's finance minister to stop printing or to cut spending. He wanted to convince the finance minister to just print, just keep printing money. And the minister agreed. Mosler borrowed lira from Italian banks, then turned around and loaned it to the Italian government. And the government paid the money back with interest. Mosler made millions of dollars for his hedge fund. See, that's hard work. That's the work we need to reward, that kind of effort. In the United States, Congress and the president were raising taxes to fight the budget deficit. Mosler, like a lot of rich people, didn't like higher taxes. So he said the very idea that the government needs to tax citizens to spend money is back-assward. This money that the government is collecting in taxes, where does it come from? What is the origin of a dollar? The dollar enters the world, Mosler said, when the US government buys something and the US Treasury puts dollars into the bank account of the seller. This is how dollars get into the world in the first instance. This is something that I've argued a long time, not his exact words, but the idea that money printing is causing inflation. I think the money printing is coming after not only the spending, but the manipulation on Wall Street. It seems to me the money's in the system, that the obligations get into the system, and the money printing is coming afterwards, racing to keep up with the money that's been created out of thin air. Most money isn't currency, so-called money. Most money isn't printed, is I guess my point. So Mosler met with Donald Rumsfeld and then met with Art Laffer, a complete buffoon. And he paid Laffer 25 grand to write an article.
Ultra, hit reader's time.
All right, I've got to put you guys on hold. Hang on.
Ultra, hit reader's
Hang
time.
on. Relax, everyone. I've got to mute. All right, so I'm probably not going to be able to stay on very much longer. I'll go through these. We'll save monetary theory till later. For those of you who invested in the gold company that I introduced you to, they're in the middle of closing the financing that you invested in. It's being closed as I speak, and they earlier this year they had a buyout offer. Then recently they had a buyout offer, and they're considering yet another buyout offer. So I can't really talk about any of that, but in broad stroke, to be financed is excellent. To move forward is excellent. It really comes down to how much of, well, the company, but how much of the project, how much of the upside do we collectively own? And it's exciting. It's a negotiation, and I can't talk about it, but we will address a lot of that. But let me go through some of these. I've got to I've got to probably sign off. Lordy, lordy, lordy. If the good Lord is mentioned one more time, I shall bring you closer to him. Yeah, there were audio problems because I did it on purpose. My logic is making money. Your break even is 0.02. Well, I think logic is what I heard, Donna, and I don't think it's any secret, but I heard that the look, Aubrey Advisors and Shadron left their client with no money. Now, you can say that's professional. You can say that's by chance. You can say it's an accident. I think it was intentional. And in the case of Collective Audience, I think they took over $100 million out of the market. Can I prove it? No, but why shouldn't that data be available so that anyone can see what happened? Because it happens in the shadows. And Aubrey Advisors, Polar, Shadron, they make the money. It's theft on a grand scale that Adina Friedman doesn't care about or is not able to do anything about. There's apologists out there. Oh, there's systems in place. Well, they're not very good systems. But anyway, what I heard, that happened a year ago now, November a year ago. So it's not what's happening. You know, they made their money. They had their fun. But what I heard is, you know, the company is clean. They're doing their reporting, but they're running on a shoestring, basically. And I guess one of the contractors for the website just said, hey, no mas. So anyway, their website was down, and it caused a bit of a kerfuffle. It's been resolved. It's just, it's okay. It's up and running. So it's not a big issue now. But if you think about it, Donna, you don't want to make announcements while your website is not up and running and robust. So that was one sort of, maybe, I don't know. I'm doing my own extrapolation, but I'd say for a week or so, it probably took to get that resolved. So that now we're in the third week of September, if you ignore the 30th. The other thing, Donna, they're putting together 800 million. It says more than 750 million. So let me call it 800 million in deals they're putting into Logic, and they're getting it in at I don't know what to call it. All the data we have is a ratio. We get to keep 15%. We know there's 300 million authorized shares. So if you just do the arithmetic, 300 million divided by 15, you get to 2 billion. So anyway, if they were to announce the first deal, which is 100 million, it's already been announced, it's out there. Well, that's 100 million. That means there's maybe 650, 750 million to go. Well, if they announce that first deal and we get 15%, well, they got to spend the 2 billion on the first deal. Then they still got 6 more to announce. Now, I haven't had a chance to talk to them because it's all quiet period. But to me, Donna, it would be much more bang for the buck and bazooka success if Logic got the majority of that 750 million and announced it all at the same time. So the 15% is of 2 billion shares, but it's not 100 million, it's $750 million worth. If you see my logic, my thinking. So there we go. I think all is good, and I think you'll expect something soon on Logic. Personally, I'm happy they're taking their time so they can announce. I hope, I don't know this for a fact, I hope they can announce several deals or price several deals at the same time. Yeah, poor Lucky is blind-ish, very blind, very tough on hearing, and focused mostly on treats, food, and sleep, and then sniffing things. He still enjoys life, but I think his quality of life is starting to confuse even him. But as long as he's eating and pooping, I'm going to do whatever I can. Finger is looking good. That's true. That's the one thing that AOC has, though, which men mostly don't have, although apparently JFK Jr. had it, is looks, sex sells. I don't know that male models make as much money as supermodel women. And there's no effort to equalize those payouts. When men play 5 sets at Wimbledon and these are powerful sets, and the season is punishing, and the seats are full because men come to see men's tennis, they equalize that, the Billie Jean King effect. Women, most people don't come to see the female matches, just face it. But that's all right. Women should come. They don't come. Women don't go watch them. Some of them they do every now and then. But I went and saw it in Court 1. I saw Serena Williams play. She lost. But they had to sandwich her match between 2 men's matches. Otherwise, the stadium would not have been full. But it's equal pay because, hey, it's fair. Well, supermodels don't donate their their 50 million. Giselle Bouchon or whatever, her hundreds of millions don't go to some, male model. I can't even think of a name. Are there male supermodels? There aren't, because sex sells, but it's young. It's typically young women, young female sex sells. Anyway, whatever. You can't win. If I make any arguments, it's, oh, you're being mean to women. I'm not trying to be, just calling it the way it is. It's the marketplace. Velocity of money. I know what velocity of money is. I guess you're talking to everybody else. It's a very important concept, Robert, velocity of money. And when the government pays Social Security checks that there's no trust fund, or they pay welfare, which goes through Morgan Stanley, that when the SNAP cards, I guess they're called, it makes money for the banks. That money has a lot of velocity. But when you buy a missile, one could argue it has a little bit of velocity in the community. But after the missile has been launched at full velocity and lands, but velocity of money is also just an economics concept. It's important. It's important. And it's probably the most important one. Ah, damn it. Let me see if Russia has been attacked. Damn it. I'll go to Pravda. You can't go to Pravda. You're a Putin lover. You're a Putin lover. If you read Pravda. Lithium-ion batteries blow up in second day of explosions in Lebanon. We're not going to escape war in the Middle East. 2 NATO states ready to close Gulf of Finland to oust Russia from the Baltic Sea. Shooting near the Kremlin. U.S. prepares for coordinated nuclear strike from China, Russia, and North Korea. USA may stop Israel at any moment, but it never will. Azerbaijan chooses cooperation with Russia. Russia amasses record amount of gold reserves. Gold, 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 gold. What long-range weapons Ukraine has and wants to strike deep into Russia. I don't see any confirmation, David, of that news, but I believe you. Oh, here it is. Ukraine strikes main missile and artillery directorate arsenal in central Russia. Ukraine strikes main missile and artillery directorate arsenal in central Russia. Well, vote for Kamala. At least there will be justice. And we'll get rid of white males, straight white males. And everybody's going to be fine. And we'll give out money. And you need a house. We'll do it all. And hey, we're going to protect Ukrainian. Ukraine is a country in Europe. It's a small country. Ukraine is next to a big country called Russia. And Russia invaded Ukraine. So we're going to fight the world's largest superpower in terms of number of nuclear weapons. It's genius. Absolute genius. Great call by Knott. Great. Has anyone considered? I'll screw you. Let's address this. Do you know what goods they sell? Do you know what goods they sell? List quickly the 6 areas of business. Finger is in 7, and what goods they're selling. Do you know that the automobiles might have a 20,000 per automobile profit? I don't know. It's what I heard. I don't know if it's true. We have to wait to find out. But you're an idiot. Please, I wish you would just go haunt some other pages, because your ignorance is boring. Yeah, that's true, Dan. I'm not going to read it out because it will end up on the internet somewhere. I think that's true too, David. The Kennedy family is actually the Roosevelt family. Yes, I think that's right, DB. I'm not going to read it out, but I think that's right. I think your assumption is right. I think that's possible too, Matthew. I think that's right, but it's also, I think something's happening. There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there. I can't believe where America is right now. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. She's unbelievable. Da, da, da. She's unbelievable. That was one of the You guys don't know what that was like. When that came out, it was a breakthrough video. Dan asked me something. I don't know what he. Dan asked me something, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what Dan asked me. Oh, here. Does a rate cut enable counterfeiting? It has nothing to do with it. 25 basis points is a sneeze in a crowded room. I like that. That's good. I like that, Matthew. You've got a future. Sardonic wit. There's nothing better than sardonic wit. October 1, it's Jimmy Cotta's birthday. On October 1, I think. Let me look it up. My name is Jimmy Cotta. October 1, I was right. He was born October 1, 1924. My name is Jimmy Cotta. I shook his hands. He came to my old school, debated Gerald Ford, and my roommate had a camera. I think there's a picture. I lost it. I think he has it, of me shaking hands with Jimmy Cotta. But I also met him here years later at the National Geographic with Rosalind. She was wonderful. Jimmy was very kind. Jimmy. J.R. Ewing is here. I think that's, as Richard calls him, my J.R. Richard's J.R. As far as I can tell, J.R. doesn't belong to anybody. James Earl Carter. My name is Jimmy Carter. She was irresistible. That's right. She was simply irresistible. You're right. I'm wrong. She was simply irresistible. I left the Democratic Party 2 years ago and I joined the Green Party. It doesn't happen anymore, but I was invited on this yacht with my client and a group of mostly Middle Arab friends and investors, but not all. But I was the only, let me suffice it to say, out of the, I don't know, dozen people there, maybe more, I was the only American. So we were talking about the election, and they asked me who I was going to vote for, Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. And I said I was going to vote for Jill Stein. But they asked me a bunch of questions, and I did some talking beforehand. And my friend that I care for very deeply, and he's my client, he said, well, it sounds like you should vote for Donald Trump. Why waste your vote on Jill Stein? And I thought to myself, I've never voted for a Republican in my life. I'm going to vote for Jill Stein. Well, I don't know. A week or so later, I flew home. And when I landed, jet lagged, for me anyway, when I come back, I stay up late. So I turned on the news. I was watching it. And that's when Hillary told me that half of my friends are deplorable. Because I unlike most blues, I interact with a lot of Reds, a lot. And she told me half of my friends were deplorable. And when she said that, I said, you know what? I won't use his name, but he's right. I'm not voting for Jill Stein. I'm going to vote for Trump. I voted for Trump. That's what I, that's what I'm still a Democrat, but I don't know why. I think the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have done a pole shift. They're completely reversed. The Republican Party no longer stands for endless war. There's the uniparty aspect. There's some old hands like McConnell and the one Lindsey Graham. But the younger Republican Party, I know it's a lot of white people, but you know what? There's a lot of white people in the United States. That's just a fact. Why? It's not some conspiracy. At the time of World War II, at the time of World War II, there were more Americans of German descent in America than Americans of British descent. So, two takeaways. One, the surprise that we're a German country as much as a British one. But the other thing is the two big things were German and Brits. You know, the Scots, the Irish, the British. And by the way, the British didn't treat the Irish very well. So it's not as simple as skin color. But my point is, there are a lot of whites in this country. It's going to change over time. It'll change. And that's fine. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But you have to assimilate. The great strength of America is people want to move here, and smart, educated, hardworking people. And out of the 20 million that have moved, who knows? Quite a few could be fantastic. The real problem in this country is not immigration as so much as the abuse of people who cross the border on temporary or non-existent visas. They get abused by U.S. industry, almost worse than slavery. It's some scary stuff. That needs to be changed. I think if you work here, you should be able to get health care and Social Security. You're paying into Social Security. You should get some of those benefits. I don't know how it would be worked out. But workers without papers are taken advantage of in a massive way in this country, and that shouldn't happen. But anyway, enough comedy jokes. Very funny. She's so fine. There's no telling where the money went. That's it. Big JR, according to FinTel, GDC is about 90% insider owned, and doing the math, well, I looked it up yesterday, Big JR. I'll look it up right now. You already have it there. I am sure. GDC security details. There it is. It doesn't have the float or any of that. But the outstanding shares are 9,756,000. Basically 10 million outstanding shares. That's it. That's what exists. Pretty amazing. I'm all broken up about that man's rights. I had a deal with Mustafa. Yeah, that's a good point. He's a lot more Democrat than. Wow, the Carters were personal friends of your grandparents. I have been in their company on many occasions. They're very pleasant people. He was ill-advised as president and heavily manipulated. That's possibly true, but Nuno, believe it or not, I still think he was a great president. Everybody else says he was a great ex-president. I think he was a great president. Ronald Reagan gets credit for deregulation. Do you know who did the most deregulation? Jimmy Carter. My name is Jimmy Carter. He deregulated airline tickets. He deregulated ticket prices for flights. He deregulated the energy industry, although it kind of complicated. There was some screwy stuff in there. But anyway, he deregulated that. He deregulated all manner of economic issues. I think he was as significant in he implemented human rights, and to this day, it's part of U.S. policy. And I think he implemented strategies and strength that helped bring down the Soviet Union. Reagan gets all the credit, but I think Jimmy Carter was part of it. I think Ronald Reagan may have committed I don't want to say it out loud, but I think Ronald Reagan worked with foreign adversaries and made a deal with Iran so that our election was interfered with, so that the prisoners stayed until Ronald Reagan was elected. And that's some serious breaking the law. And it, in other times that could be met with severe consequences. But anyway, I think Jimmy Carter was a great president and a statesman. But I know one other person who agrees with me. Yeah, you weren't a fan. I was a fan, and I was a fan of his policies, and I wish he had gotten reelected. Although that when Ted Kennedy gave his speech at the convention, I was in awe of Ted Kennedy's speech. The work lives on, and the dream shall never die. I think the Democrats are the most. I don't know, Aaron. I mean, I don't know. I'm talking blindly. You can see. I'm pretty. I could never convince you I'm Indian or black, but I think the Democratic Party is just about as racist as it can be. Why? Because when you talk down to people, when only Bill Clinton, I remember the Clintons saying that only they could help. I'm paraphrasing black. There were 3 different times, and Obama couldn't do it. This is completely wrong. This sanctimonious talking down and only Bill Clinton, Hillary can help. No. I think the name for it is plantation or something, but it's just so. What's the word? It's there is a word. I just can't think of it. It's just talking down and assuming, oh, I'm doing you a favor by even listening to you or talking to you. It's so racist. I'm just sick of it. The one thing I notice about Trump, he doesn't spend, look, he's blind. I think he could do himself a lot of favors if he would just appoint someone other than Mitch McConnell's corrupt wife in his next cabinet. But I like that Trump doesn't focus on race. He tries to hire the best people. Now, I'll admit, before you get all mad at me, I'll admit that last time he put in a lot of older white guys. My theory on that is he was in over his head. He was scared. So he wanted people that he knew and he looked up to, and they were older, and they were, being New York City, they were mostly white guys. I hope this time, I don't want him to go all DEI on us, but I'd like to see him appoint Michelle Shanahan. I think her first name is Michelle Shanahan, Kennedy's VP. Appoint her to health. I think she'd be great. I'd like him to appoint Kennedy as the Attorney General. I'd love him to appoint Tulsi Gabbard as the Secretary of Defense. I'd love Secretary of State. I hope he thinks outside of the box and doesn't bring in, I mean, if it's a white guy, that's fine if it's a white guy. But who would be a good Secretary of State? All right, I got to put you on hold. I got to put you on hold. I got to put you on hold. I forgot where I was. So you miss out on whatever my great thought was. You miss out on it. I probably can't stay on this call much longer. I'd like to wait. Maybe we'll stay to see what the federal interest rates are. I was talking about Secretary of State. Who would be a good one? I hope not. I hope someone, you know what I would love? Man, is there someone? It would never fly in this country, but is there someone? I can't think if there is. But I would love if he appointed an Arab American as the Secretary of State. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That's a powerful position, and it's got to be somebody with real knowledge of history and worldwide affairs. I hope it's not Nikki Haley. Leave her alone. I can't think of who we should appoint. I'd love it if he appointed Byron Donald somewhere. Anna Paulina Luna, I used to support, and then I don't know. It doesn't feel appropriate to put out pictures of yourself in a bathing suit, but maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just a different generation, but I like Anna Paulina Luna. He could put Arnold Arnold Schwarzenegger. No, I don't know who to put in at Secretary of State. I'll try to come up with a name. But I just hope he picks someone else. When my dad went up for a job, and I'm talking at high levels, and he was already at a high level, the woman who screened him said, well, Ambassador Farron, we are looking for appointees who look like the rest of America. And that was the first time my dad had ever experienced anything like that. His generation just went up, even though he had to work for everything he got. I didn't experience that in my life, but there's women out there and others out there that say I did. All I'm telling you, I lived my life. I didn't experience any promotions or hiring or any of that. I might have gotten advantages in situations. I will admit that. But anyway, I'll tell you one thing. I never have figured out dating women. Never have. And I don't date men. Carter did tell the truth. He probably micromanaged a little bit, but he was a workaholic. His greatest failure was the helicopters, but I actually think that was his greatest sign of strength. He did not want any Americans killed. I really admire Jimmy Carter, and I think he stood by his integrity till the end. And I think we'd be a better country if he had had a second term. The SEC approved new trading rules. We'll have to study that. So Richards Jr. says both parties have lost their way. No kidding. It's all money, 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 money. George Bush got in the office. Gulf War happened. It's all a scheme. Reagan was a movie star turned president. Yeah, Kendall, I'm not a big fan of Ronnie Reagan. I would argue when history looks back, it's possible historians will see Ronald Reagan as an enormous negative because our country completely changed after him. But possibly more importantly than Reagan was this firebrand idiot, Newt Gingrich. Sometimes now I listen to him and I agree with him, but I didn't like Newt Gingrich. But Newt changed everything. I hate this weaponized words. He made everybody talk the same way. A nightmare, Newt Gingrich. But then what happened, Kendall, after Ronald Reagan? We got this quisling Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was the Republican the Republicans never had. The third way. Bill Clinton passed more bad policy that Republicans never were able to pass. Because I feel your pain. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Depends on what you call sexual relations. I'd say, well, I try to keep this more family friendly. I don't, but I think the last statesman that we had as president was Jimmy Carter, and you could possibly say George H.W. Bush as well, who I met. He wasn't perfect. But man, it's been tough since. The new trading rules are, if you have cash, you can buy. If you have delivered your shares, you can sell. Otherwise, you can't sell. No, that's not it. That's what they should be. That's what they should be. Gary Gensler is speaking. Let's find out.
Right now on the set for the first time to talk about Bitcoin and a lot more is SEC Chair Gary Gensler. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
So,
Call from unknown.
Oh, God.
into the price, but in terms of what you think is happening inside this market and whether you think it's quote unquote working.
Well, look, we focus on investor protection, and of course, the issuers raising money. So this product, we've had similar products in gold and silver, ETFs, you call them. They're technically exchange-traded products. We approved a group of about 11 at one time. This was not the first way you could buy or express a risk in Bitcoin. But as we like to say, we're merit neutral. This was not in any way like an approval of Bitcoin. That existed. It's just how to trade it in these exchange-traded products.
We've had both a futures-based Ether and Bitcoin ETF, before, and I'm curious, sort of, how you think that this is going to impact the price of these things. Given that, by the way, interestingly, was it Pomp who was just on? Yeah. Anthony Pompliano was just on earlier this weekend, was saying that so few Bitcoins are actually moving, and what we should think of that.
And merit neutral, I think it's a little less than neutral, Mr. Chairman. It almost was, we called it grudgingly when you finally got it. From the court case sort of forced in. Is it really just neutral, or wasn't there a little bit of a, we're not sure about this thing? And
Let me say it this way.
Yeah.
We're merit neutral if somebody's complying with the laws.
Okay.
They're giving full, fair, and truthful disclosures to the American public, who gets to decide on their investments.
But you're so smart. You're at MIT, and people listen to your what you think about Bitcoin, and it is troublesome to me if I look at it and I see all the merits of it, and someone that taught about it and understands it seems to have an opinion that maybe it's pet rockish or something.
I get your words about pet rocks and so forth, but I think we also have an investor education responsibility at the SEC, particularly about those investments that are non-compliant with either the securities laws or commodities laws and so forth. So here we have an asset class, all of these 15, 20,000 crypto tokens.
Yeah.
Many of which, without prejudging anyone, many of which are actually something called investment contracts or securities, and the platforms upon which you trade, the intermediaries. They're not like in this building, NASDAQ, that has protections and against fraud, manipulation, and the like.
Just seeing people lose their shirt on with NASDAQ.
You can lose because there's risk. There's risk in investments. But what we try to do as a society is take some of the fraud and manipulation risk out of the market.
Call from.
By regulation.
Is that the problem, though? It's not necessarily Bitcoin, the underlying asset, but more the froth and the potential for fraudsters to use it that is.
Well, this is a field, Becky, that's been rife with fraud and manipulation. And look at all the bankruptcies. And you've had on this set people talking about those various bankruptcies. And it's not just one entity. It's entity after entity after entity. And then investors are just lining up in the bankruptcy court.
What do you make of, and this goes to the underlying piece of this, you've heard Jamie Dimon say that he would close it down, that basically Bitcoin is, you've seen the comments, right? It's not just that he closed down, that you would say it's used by drug dealers and used by folks who are doing all sorts of illicit and terrible things. There's very few things that trade today that people talk about like that. Now, there are obviously frauds and things that happen, but maybe not like this.
Like the dollar is like 100 times more.
I know that's your perspective, but I'm curious how you think about that.
That's true, though. This is how much has been money laundered with Bitcoin. This is how much. This is Bitcoin. This is dollar.
Yes, Joe. Look, here's the Jamie Dimon quote. The only true use case for it is for criminals, drug traffickers, money laundering, and tax avoidance. I know, but
that's his opinion.
We have a guest, Joe. What is your opinion? And what is your opinion that we have something trading on the exchange for the public that has this type of use case, at least as described by the president of one of the largest
leading market
financial institutions in the country?
It's the leading market share in ransomware, and that's publicly known. You know, it's the token of choice for ransomware. Joe, if I can say, the U.S. dollar, the euro, the yen, you have the whole society using it as a medium of exchange. We buy our cups of coffee, as I see here.
Well, you're taking priority over Gary Gensler. He's talking.
Battery 70%.
Settles.
Fuck.
Public. Billionaires will lose money and you'll get rich. That's it. It's pretty easy.
Right, you're live now. You can talk for a while.
Oh, okay. I don't follow Gary Gensler. All I know is that.
Well, we're not listening now either. We're listening to you.
Okay. All he has to do is say, hey, courts, if you sell a naked share that is not delivered, you're going to jail. We're going to refer you to the FBI and the DOJ. You go into jail. First offense, you do 1 year. Second offense, you do 3 years. Third offense, you do 10 years. That's it. All your assets will be seized. See you later. That's it. Watch how fast it stops. In 10 minutes, it's over with. The minute Pat Byrne gets in, companies like Virtue, Jeffries, these companies are going to take a bloodbath. Goldman Sachs, all of them. I told you before, how can it be possible? They always make money and every other stock is always under attack. You know, I was out getting pizza. I just came back in. I see the old washing small shares back and forth in finger motion to try to get it down on the day again. It's so typical what they do. Just to change the subject, GDC, I spoke to my friends. They've been buying more GDC on the dip. Obviously, you call this when a big buyer walks away, this is what happens. They suck in the longs that want to sell or the shorts, and then they take it up. I don't know. I told you it's a professional trade at this point. The easy money's been made, Lynn. Am I correct? I said that 2 times, right?
Yeah.
So now it becomes a professional play. You want to play it? Go look. All right. I don't like to chase things. I like to.
That's why Hal Mintz is sitting on the island and you're sitting in New Jersey.
Right. He's got a beautiful place. I should put that email. I'm gonna have to put those transactions up again. That's a good point. Hal Mintz's dealings with Jeff Easton. They, they did deals together. You know that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's hold on. There you go. I'll just look for it a little bit. But those guys work together. Obviously, we showed the transactions a long time ago. And, I'll find it again for you to take a look at it. They were criminals. The market goes down. The only people that are losing it are us. How's that possible? And these guys are all rich. None of this stocks ever work. If you don't fight and defend it, that's what happens. Yeah, I'm going to post. This is, give me 1 second, everyone. I'm just posting it. FNGR. Deals with Hal Mintz and Jeff Easton. 2 scumbags. There you go. I reposted it, so thank you for reminding me of that, William. We got that back up. We're going from 36 trading days to 35 in 2 hours. I know everyone's sitting there saying, well, how come they're not panicking? Listen, you have to go put a gun in your mouth. That's what we're telling Jeff Easton and his friends to go do. the attacks down tell you that something major is going on. DJT, they've done everything. I can't believe what they're doing here. When he does get in power, he should 100%, everyone who's short this stock should be off to prison. Because I don't know anybody that would sit here and try to short this thing down here at this level. I could see doing it at 50, it's fundamental, blah, 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 blah. But down here, this is just complete manipulation. There's nothing else to say about it. And they should be brought up on criminal charges and thrown in jail. Besides the assassination attempts. And I heard today there was another bomb possibly outside the Coliseum in Long Island. That there's a big I think there's a big conference tonight or whatever you call it, rally. And it's out here in Long Island. So again, it's insane. They don't want this guy in. I personally think it's nothing to do with all the bullshit in DC. I think it's the big money people. They're all going to get killed. From JP Morgan, all these guys. Every big hedge fund that's short and distort these guys, they're all going to get crushed. If they enforce stock settlement, they all get wiped out, all over the globe. So I don't think it's more about General Dynamics or Raytheon or Boeing or all that nonsense. I just think that it's, I think it's bigger than that, and these people are going to lose a lot of money on the short side because the rules are going to change, and they know it. He's throwing out Gensler day one. Everything you see is right in front of us. We're not making this shit up. It's right there. William, before I went out, I posted some of the companies that Figure Motion is doing deals with and their market cap. Like Munich Re is like a $70 billion market cap company. $70 billion. I forget what Pacific Life was. I can't remember the numbers. Another monster. AIZ is a $10 billion company. The Chinese government, endless money. These guys have been approved, and we have a stock that they just get the 225 bid, and they just manipulate. Obviously, since I came on, they've been moving it down. But they, it's just the whole thing is stupid at this point. Benchmark, Lynn Partners' buddy, even says it's worth 5. How's that one?
Yeah.
Benchmark is Lynn Partners' partner in crime, and they say it's worth 5. Then who's selling it down to 2? Who ran in to sell 1,000 shares to try to knock out the 225 bid?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense. Everything they're doing is very obvious. And the problem is that we all sit here and we hold on hoping that this thing will end. It just doesn't work like that. The old days, we could go and find stocks that were hard to borrow, or on they used to use that list, William, how many days to cover. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I remember
The
that.
Wall Street Journal used to list it. Like the 50 top stocks that were, if they were forced to cover, it would take 30 days, 40 days to cover. In Figure Motion, based on the volume, the naked short, the real short is 1.7 million. And they go, well, you trade 300,000 a day, so you're talking about 6 days they can cover it. That's how they do that math. 6 times 3 is 1.8 million, and that's how they say, it's only take 6 days to cover. Well, if they stop naked shorting, there is no sellers, and today we traded 70,000 shares. Today it's more like probably 40,000 or 35,000 is traded today. It's been wishy-washy back and forth. How are you going to cover 1.7 million in 6 days when there's only 35,000, 40,000 shares traded? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. You're talking 30, 40, 50 days when there's no selling based on the volume.
Mm-hmm.
So those numbers are all wrong. You can't even use that philosophy or that trading pattern anymore. It's all wrong. Before it used to be, many years ago, it was that you could look at that and say, okay, Taze is on the list. It's going to take 104 days for them to cover the short. That's how big it is. And you can squeeze it. Taser did squeeze, or Overstock did squeeze. Now it's not. You can't base it on that. Now the game is you need to accumulate. You need to do a special dividend. You need not to take a penny from Wall Street, because if you take 1 penny, you basically killed yourself. KNW, GMGI. I keep posting about those 2 stocks. And the only reason I'm doing it is saying, hey, shareholders, you're going to get robbed. Those guys didn't give money to the company and not getting it back. All right, they want their money back. And the company can only give them shares. So what do? They short to lock in their money. The lower it goes, they could give a rat's ass what happens to you. They want their money back. That's how they play the game. So that's the game. That's what they do. So you got to be careful. As soon as you take a penny from these guys, the end of the world comes. So again, finger motion has nothing to do with it. Finger motion is dealing with some of the biggest companies in the world. And just think about how stupid these guys are. They'd rather short it than take a ride to the long side with a company that could have potentially huge revenue, big partnerships, a good company. They'd rather destroy it than the opposite way. That's what they do. How does a company have all these partnerships, be a $2.25 stock, and people selling? I put it this morning, William. There was a pattern of 5, 5, 5, 5 shares, then 10, 10, 10 shares, then 50 shares, all at the same time, like a machine gun. 50, 50, 50, 50, all along. Who sells the same thing at the same second? There wasn't even a tick of the clock. It was like 9:52:20, and all those trades happened. All different prices, all the same price, excuse me. They stick out like a sore thumb. I keep telling everybody, we're going against buffoons. These buffoons trap themselves, and they never believed that the government, that Trump is going to win. Obviously, this is the third attempt trying to kill him, and he's putting in Pat Byrne in there. Whoever thought that? I never thought that would happen. And that's why I'm using the countdown every day, because you know what? Pat Byrne is going to slaughter them. I put the movie up, deep capture the movie. He was the most hated man on Wall Street for years because he took the fight to them. Until he squeezed them, that's when they went away, and that's when he retired. And that guy was fighting cancer 4 times, diagnosed with cancer. They don't care. They were probably hoping he died every day. He actually went to meetings where they threatened to kill him. I told you, Orrin Hatch told him that they're going to try to kill him. He told him that. Told him to be careful. Pat Byrne, you can ask him that. And anybody ever gets in touch with Pat Byrne on your own, you can ask him, did Orrin Hatch ever tell you they were going to try to kill him? He'll tell you. I mean, just shows you what you have on our side. Pat Byrne never voted for Trump. He's a libertarian, but he helped save the country with the voting fraud. He helped expose it. He did it by himself. He's here to save the country. That's what it's about. But again, we have him because he's going to clear stock settlement. He told you himself, there's bad people in this game. We got to get rid of them. Who are the bad people? Virtue, Ken Griffin, the Kramers, the Alpine, all these guys. They got to go away. These people have to disappear. Once they do, we take from the rich and give to the poor. That's the Robin Hood trade. That's what I keep telling people. People, if you don't want to own the stock, you don't have to own it. I would tell you, if the SEC's listening, I would advise you, and I am, that if you bought one share for your kid, it was a college kid, or if you're old enough, a grandson, or whoever, and let them learn how and watch it. Tell them to watch it, because this will have the same trading patterns like a GameStop, up, down, then zoom to the moon. And they can learn more doing that for $2 and whatever, $2.30. One share will give them an education they'll never get at Harvard Business School or any class that they ever attend. Will never teach you this. This is 24 years of working to trap these guys, and I finally have the U.S. government on our side, and we have the number one guy on our side, Patrick Byrne. You can't get any better. If they don't fix this problem, everyone, you're all dead, because it's impossible then. It's impossible to make money. Everyone's sitting around waiting for a rate cut. For what? It has nothing to do with finger motion. Zero. A rate cut has nothing to do with this company. It may affect the short sellers based on their money that they can borrow, which I believe is being shut down. Something is obviously going on. Their pattern of where they're taking the day off today. They're not doing that. We know that, right?
Right.
These guys are usually doing anything trying to manipulate it back down to 2. Get it to 2. Get it to 2. I told you, 240, 250, 255, 260. That's where the real short. That's his break even. Every time it moves up to 240, hurry up, move it back down. They're just giving you the chance to buy it cheaper. I don't think anybody who wants to go sell a car or a house is going to go out there and say, hey, listen, I'm going to try to make it so we don't make much more money. We want to make sure you make money. We'll offer you cheaper. No one does that. Everybody always wants to make more money, except the short sellers. They want to make less. If you could sell a stock of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, why would you sell it at 2 1/4? Right? If the trend is the trend and it looks like it wants to go up, why are they fighting so hard to push it down? Why are they pushing Donald Trump stock down from $40-something down to 15? Their motive is they want those investors that are first time, the people that are allowed to sell the first time, they want to take out the insiders at the low. So they wrote stories to use that. They wrote stories about this. Everything's negative. He's got the negative stories now. Everything's negative. And it comes down to stock settlement, and they know about it. I told you that. First day, he's buying Donald Trump. Second day, he's putting Pat Byrne in there. I told you I'll get Pat Byrne on day 25 or at 35. I'll get a conference call with William. We'll set it up, and I'll have Pat tell us about what he's going to do. And I'm going to get him to tell you how ruthless he's going to be. Because now we're in control. One guy said to me, well, it's going to take a long time. That's not true. All the rules are in place already. All we need to do is enforce stock settlement. So the broker tries to get subpoenas. We want to see your unsettled trades. Boom, boom, boom. You don't do it, E-Trade gets in trouble. The person that's holding on to those fake trades, stock loan, all these people are going to get busted. And that's how you get rid of the corruption on Wall Street. And for these guys thinking that's not going to happen, good luck. 36 days. And I'm telling you, we have our money on the right horse. Besides the company being a good company, which I think I posted, you make your own determination. Benchmark says it's worth 5. So I can at least say to everybody, hey, why wouldn't you want to buy a stock that's at 2 1/4? You know it's worth 5. Eventually it's going to drift up to 5. The fundamentals are going to take it there. What's the risk? Me and William have said it many times. The downside and finger is up. Benchmark, which is a big brokerage firm, right? Qualified, has all these financial advisors. They're telling us in their report it's worth 5. And they don't even have all the data from all the deals they just recently announced. And none of that is included.
Oh my gosh. The Fed lowered rates by 0.5 point.
Yeah, so
Something's wrong. Something is going on beneath the hood. Or Kamala is losing the race.
Listen, the political stuff is over. They're finished. There's not even a prayer. They're wasting their time and their money. They should take the money they raised for the Democratic Party and give it to the homeless people. Let them pay it. Give it to the veterans. At least do something good. At least they get it.
It's a split vote. That's pretty. That kind of shows some resistance inside.
Well, the market shot up $200. So there you go.
They see
The
two
market
more
cut $200.
25.
Wait a second, everybody. The market they cut the rates, and finger motion is down 7 pennies. Not one trade. What was the sell-off about? The rates? What was it about? I kept telling you it doesn't make a difference. It's just manipulation back and forth. And like the lottery, you got to be in it to win it. I told you, if you have a child in college, you should 100% buy him a share, and you can teach him about the equity market just looking at it and understanding how it trades. When they do forced settlement, you have to look into it, and that's when the kid will learn, or the daughter will learn about the equity markets. Because if there's going to be a fair market, they can actually trade and understand how to invest and make a future for themselves. You know, just don't give them a book and say, "Hey, go read about options." That's how it works. Does anyone on your call have a question? I don't care about the rate cuts, so don't ask me about that. Nope.
Just looking, I can't read as quickly as I used to. Short number went up last month.
That's correct. I can't believe we're down to 35 days. I have to keep deleting the numbers that I said, the photos of the numbers. Remember we started this? It was north of 90. I started doing this. Anyway, these people, Ken Griffin, Virtue, all these little thugs, and the toxic lenders, these people belong in jail. Criminals. And the CEOs that are still doing this stuff with them, they should be taken out also, because they're just sending people in and they put out these positive spins in a press release, and most people don't read the news about the debenture that they have to pay back, which is impossible. If a company's just starting out, and like K&W, and is working on to increase whatever I forget it was diabetic drug, whatever it is, for trials and stuff like that. They need the money to spend to grow to help do those trials, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not driving revenue, so how are they going to pay back anybody?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the money to pay it back. So what's going to happen? They're going to convert the stock. They're going to convert it at the lowest price. Anybody that'll buy stock at 30 cents, they'll sell it all day long, because they're going to cover it and get it back from the company at a penny. That's all it is. Pretty easy concept, right, Wade?
Pretty easy.
Right? I told you before, the best business plan in the world was created by the TV, the Broadway play, the producers. They make more money with a flop than they do with a hit. Anybody remember that one, Wade?
Yeah, I do.
You're old enough, you can remember that one, right?
I never saw it. I never saw that movie with all the people that went to New Orleans to listen to music, and I never saw The Exorcist.
What the hell's that got to do with anything?
And I never saw the one with Burt Reynolds in the Hillbilly Mountains. I never saw that one either.
All right, you got to catch up on your TV then.
Now I've done a lot of catching up the last couple of years.
Right.
I'm
But,
back to 1930 black and white movies.
That's what you're up to now?
Yeah.
We discussed yesterday, watch the Marx Brothers. I hope some people will join that one and go look at it. But I'm looking for here it is. Everybody, I'm going to send it to Donald Trump, and I'm going to send it to everybody here. This is their business plan. There you go. It's very easy. Max Bialy stock, and I forget the other, not Gene Wilder. It was the first one was Gene Wilder and Max Bialy stock. That's the guy's name, Max Bialy stock. I forgot his name. Zero Mostel.
Yeah.
The best play is the naked good business plan. You make more money with a flop than a hit. There you go. You can't get any easier than that. They keep selling millions and millions of shares. They get the money, and then they create a flop, just like the movie itself or the TV show. They wanted to get a Broadway play. They sold 1,000%. You can only sell 100%, but they sold 1,000%, and they wanted to create a flop. The play would open up. It would go out of business on day one, and they keep all the money. No one would ever complain because it's a flop. That's the show. And that's what.
Call from Dick Ritterstein.
All right.
That's their business model.
I've got to you got to hold a second. All right, you should be able to talk again.
I'm just looking at the, I was just reading some of the stuff that, you know, JP Morgan's the only one that single bank ever predicted the rate cut. Who gives a shit? No one has anything, on these polls that actually is affected by all this nonsense. They buy the same 10 stocks every day, they're not buying the million today, so let's look at IBM. Yeah, there's IBM's going up now. But Microsoft, just scoot around. It's not Microsoft today, so must be Costco today. Yeah, Costco's up. How about UNH? UNH is up 5. I told you they can manipulate the stocks. They manipulate the market by using different stocks. That's it. Goldman Sachs is now up in the day. The rate cuts, they can get money cheaper again. Lend it out, get more money. Jeffries, I'm sure, is up on the day. Well, that's still down 7 cents. I can't do Jeffries for $60. Interactive brokers, $131. All they do is do fraud. Let that be shares. They create their own shares. People put up reports. I'll give you an example. GDC with no shares lend one day. The next day it had 800,000. The next morning. It's impossible. Anyone have any questions about Bitcoin?
Yeah, talk about that. There's a question about the questions. No, there's questions about that. Go ahead, you're talking.
No, GDC, I told you that people I know have been averaging buying it from 5.5, 5.70.
Are you talking into the phone?
I believe I am.
It's very hard to hear you.
I'm not going to yell. I'm right. Can you hear me now?
No, I'm just seeing if there's something wrong. Might be on my end. Let me see. No, there's no other phone call. Yeah, we'll just have to live with it. Go ahead.
All right. So again, GDC, I told you professional people are buying it, and professional people get a lot of money on the upside, so they're throwing some of it back in here trying to buy the dip. People I know are doing the same thing. The professional trade now, I told you about that. The easy money's been made. I don't believe in chasing for buying these things. As a retail investor, I like to buy things that go sideways. Big emotion. They're doing everything in their power to get you to stock cheaper all day long. People be willing to pay $270. They want to give it to you at $225, $230. That's what I see. I told you my friends are very wealthy people. They pay $10 for the stock. 10. Benchmark says it's worth 5. Yet the stock is $2.28, and there's always 100 shares to sell. That's the manipulation all day long. They keep coming back. It's just like, I don't know what to say. It's like a dripping faucet to try to torture you. I was listening to, I was in the car, I heard Tom Petty. Waiting is the hardest part. Well, that's what we got going on here. We're just waiting. It's the hardest part. We're sitting around waiting. We're waiting for someone in the government to do the right thing. How did Gary Gensler get up there and he can parade Ken Griffin in front of us, who's worth $35 billion for more multi-hundreds of $1 million homes, and tell us he's a good guy? It's impossible. Now they can't even parade him up there because it's an embarrassment. BIRT, same thing. All these brokerage firms, they're a disgrace. They don't even care. That's the sick part. They have nothing to do with a public company. Any of these companies. Goldman, JP, what does Goldman Sachs have anything to do with Big Motion? Nothing. Zero. Why are these brokerage firms tied to any public company? Why is the DTC? What is their problem? What are they going to do this whole thing? How can the tail wag the dog? Right? These are public companies that go out, raise money, give people stock for their investment, and the only thing the company is controlled by is stock sentiment. How is that possible? It has nothing to do with their product, whether they're doing FDA or this or that. Nothing. It's controlled by criminals. DTC, the brokerage firms, stock loan, they're lending out shares that they don't have. It's remarkable. Just remarkable. Someone is short 1,720,000 finger. I think the number's only 4 million shares. No, most of it's all owned by insiders. your house is good for almost 50%, or 30-something% of the float. Forget the naked short. People are not even lending it out. How many people I speak to every day saying I called and not lending my share out? I've had some calls from people who told me they had to cancel this. The brokerage tried to cancel their ones and then lend out their shares. That's happening. So if you do have to get to cancel on it, check on it, because sometimes they cancel it. Because they know that if they can get those shares and lend them out, the brokerage firm can lend out, let's say 1 million shares and make a penny a day. That's what he said. It's a pile. Do it, 10,000 times. That's what we're fighting here. The whole industry is corrupt. I always tell people that you're nuts to invest in the equity market. Totally crazy. Big emotion is a different beast because I landed here by accident years ago, and I'm not the type of guy that can quit. As long as the company's doing the right thing, I'll stand tall. If they change it, I'm out. But they're doing everything they can to make it happen. Wait to see, you ever get back to you? Just reach out and we can get that, try that again. You said he did respond to you and said that in due time, right?
Yeah, I'm not. He doesn't come from Wall Street trading desks. He doesn't come from hammer. He's what he said to me. What I heard. Let me put it that way. It's not what he said. Is he's not free to talk right now. What does that mean? I would guess it means, any number of things might be happening, and until they happen, you can't talk. So bugging him to talk to me is not going to change anything. I think you're going to need to see at least one announcement of whatever it is before he's going to agree to talk to me. That's what I think.
No, listen, I don't believe anything. You don't know when it's going to go. I do know that Pat Byrne is the end of the road for the shorts. They can sit here and get their protection by whatever regulator they think they are getting. But that's coming to an end. Hold on a second. Someone's asking me, William, are you typing a fucking essay right now? You typing something, William?
I was. All right. Let's just close the call. If I upset you by typing, I've got to go. So everybody, thank you for being here. I'm upset. I have something. If you don't want me to do something at the same time, let's shut this down and we'll redo it tomorrow. So I thank everybody for being here, and we'll catch you tomorrow.